It's hard for me to rip on Zach Wilson, and that's not what I'm going to do when we talk about this Jets and Cowboys game. This Cowboys defense is the best in the league at this point. I know they face off against two New York teams with struggling offenses, and then they're going to go and face another easy game in Arizona. But that being said, this defense is legit. This team is nasty. The defense could easily carry them to an NFC title game. So that being said, like with Zach Wilson and the way he struggled, he had some pretty bad plays out there, but he's facing the best defense in football at this moment in time. So not here sitting on Zach Wilson and ripping him. He did play poorly, but that my takeaway from that game is just this Cowboys defense, nasty right now.
Yeah.
In every part of the field.
Yeah, with the Cowboys, like the most important coach on that team at this point is Dan Quinn. He's the best coach on that staff right now. And the defense has performed. However, you did play a weak Giants team where we saw them struggle against what everyone thinks is the worst team in the league, who we said would be the worst team in the league coming into the season. So it's like you demolished Daniel Jones and then Zach Wilson came out there and then you're at home versus the New York Jets, and then Micah Parsons was basically teeing off on Zach Wilson. He did whatever he wanted to do with that Jets offensive line, and I was like, hey, I think Zach Wilson could take a step forward this year. However, I think this is going to be a house of horrors for him in Dallas, and some people were like, oh, that's not true. It's not going to be a house of horrors. Well, it was. There were 3 interceptions, I believe, in that game.
Yeah.
That was kind of him forcing the issue. He did have some missed throws, but he's going into a tough environment in Dallas. And if we're going to talk about all offseason, well, the Jets are good. We have Aaron Rodgers there, but we don't know about that offensive line. Well, maybe give the same grace to Zach Wilson if the offensive line isn't good. Because if Aaron Rodgers was getting lit up, Micah Parsons was hitting him, they'd be like, oh, that just offensive line is terrible. And then Zach Wilson goes out there, lays an egg. People are like, oh, Zach Wilson is terrible when he's getting bodied. I do think the Jets, however, should have run the football a little bit more. I get you were down in that game, but just to take some pressure off of him. I know Breece Hall was upset that he didn't get as many carries as he thought he should have, and I definitely think he has a point there where if you're going up against a tough Cowboys team, you shouldn't just be trying to sit back in the pocket versus them and then letting them tee off against Zach Wilson. Let's at least try to get a running game going, and I think let's not try and kill Zach Wilson's confidence right away, and that's really what worried me about this game, where I was like, I think Zach Wilson, to go into Dallas after expecting to be the backup for the majority of this year, this is going to be a nightmare game for him, and it was. But I thought the Jets defense, for as tough a game as it was on the road, I thought they were able to give the Cowboys offense problems where they did have to settle for a lot of field goals in that game. And that's kind of my problem with Dallas this year. I think really the only explosive piece on that team is CeeDee Lamb, where I think Tony Pollard is a very solid running back, but he's not as dynamic as someone like Christian McCaffrey on the 49ers. And their backup running back, I know you have Deuce Vaughn on that team and you have a few other backups, but it's like, I'm just not in love with their running game at this point. And then Dak Prescott, it's early in the season. We'll see how that offense progresses, but overall, I am worried, though, that the Cowboys look this good this early. Usually when a team starts coming out, cracking heads this early in the season, and then starts to get a ton of momentum going, it's too early.
Yeah, and plus they have a really easy schedule to start. I mean, I'll pull up the schedule here while we're talking about it, but, I mean, you faced, and that's the thing, I love their defense. So when I say that we should pump the brakes on the defense a little bit, it's not because I don't think their defense is elite. Their defense is the best in the league at this point. You can argue maybe 2 or 3 other teams in that conversation, like the 49ers, for example. But right now, they have the best defense in football, 100%. But next week, they face the Cardinals.
Right.
They should take care of business against the Cardinals, even with Josh Dobbs. And then you face a Patriots offense that has struggled. Okay.
They get the Patriots after that?
Yeah. So,
jeez.
So they have the Giants, who were shut out for the first 6 quarters of their season. Terrible. The Jets, with Zach Wilson, after expecting to sit behind Aaron Rodgers all season, kind of an easy win for them. Then they face the Cardinals, who are tanking. And then you face the Patriots, who have no explosive weapons at all. So the first month of the season, that's great. Then it goes 49ers, Chargers, Rams, Eagles.
Tough.
Those are 4 teams with 4 formidable offenses. So we'll see. After the first month, they're going to look like world beaters. And then I want to see them against the 49ers. I want to see them against the Chargers, even the Rams with, Sean McVay still calling plays for them. That's when I'll know for sure if this is the best defense in football. I think it still will be like a top 5 defense, but first month of the season with all these teams that you're facing, I want to see some stiffer competition before I can anoint them number 1.
Yeah, and it's like, again, call me crazy, but usually the team that comes out and starts kicking ass right away doesn't typically win the Super Bowl. I know the Eagles got there last year and they were kicking ass early in the season, but again, they had a pretty easy schedule and they also ran into the 49ers with no quarterbacks on that team.
Yeah,
so
they had some breaks for sure.
Yeah, that team that could have gone differently, and then you absolutely annihilate. They get the Giants in the divisional round of the playoffs, and then you face a team with no quarterback, and then you couldn't stop Juju Smith-Schuster. So it's like that defense looked really dominant. Want to see how the Cowboys progress over the season. I do think they may take a step back towards the end of the year, but overall, like what I saw in